Alright guys, so today we're going to work on this Vette. It's a Z06 Jetstream Blue. And basically, this Vette has it's like a chip. I guess it was done from like a pressure wash, that's what the owner said. But what we're going to do is we're going to refinish it and shoot that entire door so it looks brand new. First things first though, you want to clean your entire panel. I use basically a paper towel with thinner to remove any kind of contaminants and to clean it up real good. And then after that, we basically start working on it. So here we go. Guys, so we went ahead and sanded down the dent with 100 grit on a continuous roll sandpaper using a Durablock, the flat block, which is this little thin one. And we just kind of did this kind of motion and then cross hatch. And what that does, it kind of smooths out the surface. Now you can't tell, but it does. It is a low spot here, so we're gonna go ahead and add filler to bring that surface back to its original contour. So ready for the next step. Here we go. See what we did, guys, is we mixed up this Evercoat Metal Glaze filler. Basically it's a very smooth filler, and we mixed it up. Used the smaller spatula because the diameter of whenever you apply filler, you want to use one of these spreaders. That's going to work best. And the way you know is if your diameter of your spot damage is this small, which is smaller than the width of this, you can use this one. But if the damage area is a little bit bigger, then you use your bigger spatula. I think this is the biggest size there is, but we used this one because it was a small spot. You just mix it up on your mixing board. Whenever you mix up your filler, if this is the diameter of your putty, of your glaze, basically you want to put a line of the hardener about 3/4 of the way. And a lot of these cans have a display that show you how much hardener you should put. So like a 2-inch centimeter, 4-inch, and an 8-inch is generally the rule of thumb of when it comes to mixing filler. So here it is. We put some glaze on this. We're gonna let it dry, and then we're gonna block it with the Durablock and 100 grit. And then after 100 grit, we'll use 180 grit. Alright guys, so we went ahead and sanded it down with Durablock and 100 grit. So this is what it'll look like. As you can tell, this is the low spot area, and these are all sand scratches. What we're going to do is we're going to use the DA with 180, and it's an orbital DA, and what it's going to do is going to minimize these sand scratches down, so when we shoot our primer, it'll fill in all the scratches and it won't show through the paint when you shoot your base and your clear coat. So we're gonna, like I said, use the DA with 180 grit and just buzz over this. You're not gonna put any pressure because you don't want to mess up your body work. You're just gonna lightly go over all these scratches and prep it for primer. Alright guys, so we already went ahead and used the DA to buzz it down with 180 grit. As you can tell, you really can't see any of the straight line scratches. It's a smoother finish, and that's what you want, because when you shoot your primer, the primer's going to fill in all these little scratches, and then after it dries and you sand your primer, it's going to be ready for base. If you didn't do this step, you left it with all the sand scratches, yeah, your primer might look good, it'll fill in those scratches, but when it starts to dry the next day, the paint will tend to shrink and you'll see lines appear in your base coat, and that's basically where the paint is shrinking into the scratch. and we call those sand scratches. And even though you clear coat it, you're still going to be able to see it, because when the paint sinks into it, it creates kind of like of a shadow effect where the metallics sink into the scratch, and you're able to see those sand scratches because it's a metallic color. This is actually a pearl tri-coat, so it has the blue metallic and then the pearl coat on top of that. So we're ready for primer, which is the next step. Here we go. Okay guys, so we went ahead and scuffed up the primer, and we basically use 1000 grit wet or dry sandpaper with water and scuffed it up. Now you can tell, you see these little scratches. You want to sand the primer around the edges so you see these scratches. And what this is basically the scratches that are filled in with primer. So when you shoot base, it'll look nice and smooth, and there's no sand scratches. Now we did sand the rest of the car, the door, and you can kind of see some shiny spots here. So we scuffed everything else up with 1000 grit, but as you can tell, the shiny spots here, we're gonna have to scuff up with a scotch pad, and just to get it nice and dull, so the base can grab hold of the panel and have a better adhesion. So that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna scuff up the panel and let you guys look at the difference. Okay guys, so we basically scuffed up the door with the scotch pad, and as you can tell, this is what it's supposed to look like. So that way when the paint gets sprayed on there, it's grabbing it. But the door's pretty much scuffed up. What we're gonna go ahead and do now is we're gonna cover the whole car with plastic, tape up the mirror and the trim, and get it prepped and ready for paint. So here we go. Alright guys, so here's the car ready, prepped and taped up for to refinish. So got the mirror and everything taped up, all the tape edges. Now I did tape the mirror so I can swerve it and maneuver it, because when I spray my base and clear, well actually my clear coat, I'm gonna have to spray in here. So you want to make sure that you can do that. Another tip of advice is put a big piece of tape across here to cover this and tape it down, because when you spray in there, sometimes there'll be trash and dirt and it'll come back up. So put a piece of tape there so when you do maneuver and spray, it's not going to throw trash on your paint job. But we're ready for base, so here we go guys. Alright guys, so we finished spraying the base. This color is very reflective, as you can tell. There we go. So we covered our primer spot, which was here. So we shot straight base. Now when you reduce your base, you do 1:1. I'll explain that in another video. But we blend it to here, blend it to there, just to give you a better look. This is where we did our blend here. Now when we get to this line, from this line forward, we reduce our paint again 2:1 to thin out the paint, because you want it to be more transparent to match with the original color that's over here, so we don't have to spray that panel. Same thing here, we reduce our paint 2:1 and blend out this way, so the color is more transparent. So let me show y'all what that is. So if you have your base and you pour it out the can already mixed, let's say you pour 2 ounces into this cup. When you reduce it, you have to pour in another 2 ounces, and you'll have 4 ounces of paint, right? Now that's 1:1. 2 ounces of paint, 2 ounces of reducer, 4 ounces. Now that same paint that you have in your gun, you're gonna have a little bit left over. And when you reduce 2:1, what you do is you pour in that paint that you have left over, 2 ounces, then you add another 4 ounces. So this paint's already reduced, but when you reduce it again, what it does, it thins it out. So right here, 2 ounces, and you're going to pour another 2 ounces, so you'll have 4 ounces of paint. But remember, this paint's already reduced. It's out of my can. So what it does, it's more transparent. You can blend to the sides to get an even color match. So that's how you do a 2-to-1 reduce of your base to color blend. Okay, so we finished shooting clear, and this is the end result. So we do have a little bit of orange peel, which is normal. But you pretty much shot everything, the whole panel. Now if y'all remember, the damage was right about somewhere here. So yeah guys, that's pretty much you can kind of see the texture. Let's see, there we go. You got a little bit of orange peel, but it'll buff out. I do use accelerator in my clear whenever I'm spraying outside and if it's windy. Reason being, I try to shoot just 1 coat of clear, because if you shoot 2 coats in between coats, you know, you have to either refill your gun or let it flash and then shoot your second coat. Well, whatever lands on top of the first coat, if you spray the second coat over it, it'll trap it. So that's the reason I use 1 coat. And the reason I also use accelerator is it speed dries it. So as you can tell, I barely finished spraying this. It's probably been about a good 15 minutes or so, or 10 minutes. And it's already dry to the touch, you know. So it just helps, you know, for it to dry quicker. And in case anything does land on it, it's not going to stick to it because you have accelerator in it. So there you go, guys. We just refinished a Corvette Z06. Alright, so we finished buffing out the door today. As you can tell, there is hardly any orange peel. You can see the reflection. You always want to wet sand and buff a panel out after you're done refinishing it, because the texture will match the rest of the car, so it doesn't look like it's been painted. But this is pretty much the finish on it. As you can tell, just autofocus on here is kind of up and down. But there it is, guys. Buffed out and everything.